Welcome back, everyone. Today we continue with the next part of this series called What If Goku Remember the Saiyans? Let's aim for 400 likes on this one. Also, don't forget to leave a comment letting me know if you've enjoyed the series thus far. With that, let's continue. Alright, today we'll start training for real, Master Roshi announced to his two students as the morning sun rose behind him. He had been a little disappointed when he learned that Kakarot had already knocked young Krillin out in a sparring match, but Kakarot explained that Krillin had challenged him first. If that was the case, Krillin probably did need to be taken down a notch. The old master noticed that Krillin, the bald-headed student, was much quieter and more reserved today than before. We'll start off with a brief run, Roshi continued. After a few minutes of light jogging, they arrived at a small house where a goat man was stacking milk crates. You must be the one I talked to earlier, Roshi said to the man. We'll make sure to have all this delivered by breakfast. Excuse me, master, Krillin interjected. What does delivering milk have to do with martial arts? I don't know, Roshi replied with a hint of sarcasm. Maybe it has to do with having the discipline to do what you're told. Yes, master, Krillin said, slightly backing away from the master. Kakarot suppressed a chuckle. He wasn't exactly sure what delivering milk had to do with martial arts either, but he wasn't going to say anything, at least not until he had a chance to see what the training actually consisted of. After all, Master Roshi was incredibly strong, at least for a human. Surely that meant he was doing something right in his training. We'll start off easy, Roshi said. We'll skip the first 3 miles. Krillin's face dropped. Did he say 3 miles? He thought to himself, but managed to keep quiet. Several minutes later, the three arrived at a house and placed the milk at the door. Very good, Roshi said. Now for the next 2 miles, we'll zigzag through these trees down this path. Kakarot suppressed a smile when he saw Krillin's face drop again. He now understood the point of this training. It was to build physical endurance. While it might not be the most effective method of training, he would at least give it a chance. After arriving at the next house, Krillin panted heavily. Finally done. Not quite, Roshi said. We'll take a break from running with a few stairs. That'll be nice, Krillin muttered to himself. His face paled as he looked up and saw that a few stairs meant stairs all the way up a mountain. Let's get started, Roshi said as they began climbing. Kakarot relaxed in the cool grass outside the house. After delivering milk, they had plowed fields by hand, done construction work, and been chased by a shark while swimming laps. While the training was unconventional, Kakarot admitted to himself that he was tired from it. Now the old master had said to rest and they would continue training tomorrow. While Kakarot was tired, part of him was disappointed by this. He had hoped to get some good sparring in, but Krillin had been too exhausted to put up much of a fight, so the young Saiyan let it go. Several weeks had passed, and Kakarot and Krillin continued their daily routine, now with 50-pound turtle shells strapped to their backs. Master Roshi had avoided training them directly, insisting they stick to the routine and insisting they weren't ready to learn anything else. Man, I wish Master Roshi would teach us something, Krillin complained after one particularly grueling day of training. At least you're not almost dead after the routine now, Kakarot commented with a grin. It must be doing something. You do have a point, Krillin admitted reluctantly, but I'd like to make sure my fighting skills aren't getting dull. Well, why don't we spar a bit, Kakarot suggested, his eyes twinkling with excitement. I don't know. Krillin hesitated, remembering how easily Kakarot had beaten him the last time they sparred. How about I wear my turtle shell, Kakarot proposed. That'll give you the advantage. But you'll get creamed, Krillin said, concerned. I'll just have to learn to be better then, Kakarot replied confidently. Fine, Krillin agreed, thinking he'd get some payback this time. Krillin dropped his turtle shell and charged at Kakarot with newfound speed. He shot a fist at Kakarot's head, but the young Sen managed to dodge at the last second. Krillin was amazed at how much faster he was, even after only a few weeks of Master Roshi's training. Unfortunately, his moment of surprise was cut short as Kakarot's fist shot into his stomach. Krillin doubled over from the blow, not expecting Kakarot to be so quick even with the turtle shell on his back. Shaking off the pain, Krillin blocked another punch aimed at his head and countered with a sweeping kick to take Kakarot's feet out from under him. Kakarot jumped over the attack and backflipped out of range of the next punch aimed at his body. He shot forward with an uppercut aimed at Krillin's jaw, but the weight of the turtle shell slowed him just enough for Krillin to deflect the blow with his arm. Taking advantage of the opening, Krillin punched Kakarot in the stomach, causing him to double over. A small drop of blood shot from Kakarot's mouth and landed on his white tank top. Master Roshi watched the sparring match from the porch of his house. He knew this day would come when Kakarot would need more than just physical endurance exercises. The boy was impatient and felt the need to become the best as soon as possible. Roshi could sympathize with his sense of urgency. If there was an alien out there that had destroyed his people, It could come to Earth and strike at any time. It was no wonder the boy wanted to train constantly. While his original plan had been to have them defeated at the next tournament to keep them humble and motivated to keep training, Roshi decided he could help them more than he had originally planned. After all, Kakarot wasn't likely to lose his drive to train as long as there was still this mysterious alien out there, and Krillin wasn't likely to beat Kakarot if they trained the same amount. Roshi continued to watch the fight. No, they weren't quite ready, the old man decided. He'd let them train on their own if they wanted. If they got strong enough doing that, he'd start instructing them on more of the advanced techniques of the turtle style. Several months passed as the boys continued to train. Kakarot stood alone near the beach after their daily routine. He was hardly winded from the workout anymore, which he had to admit was an improvement. He knew he was much stronger than he'd been when he and Krillin had started the training. They had also been sparring every afternoon after their workout for the past few months. Today, Kakarot decided to postpone the spar and work on controlling his energy. Me, ha, Kakarot shouted as he sent his 20th Kamehameha wave into the ocean. Very good, a voice said from behind him. Kakarot turned to see Master Roshi standing there. Want some instruction? I think I've got it, Kakarot said. It wasn't all that hard to learn. You may have learned to perform the move, Roshi said, but you haven't mastered it yet. How's that? Kakarot asked, curious. You need to learn how to put more of your energy into it, the master replied. Try holding the energy and putting as much of your energy into it as possible before releasing it. That will build your endurance faster and let you make stronger Kamehameha waves. What made you want to start training me? Kakarot asked. You haven't really helped much these last few months. You weren't quite ready, Roshi said. Now I think you are. I'll give it a try then, Kakarot said. Me. Kakarot gathered the blue energy in his hands. He continued to push more energy into his hands until he thought he had no more to give. Ha! He finished, releasing a much larger Kamehameha wave into the ocean. Very good, Roshi said, impressed. I'm amazed you've managed to channel so much energy into it so easily. It took me nearly 50 years to master that move. It was nothing, Kakarot said, panting from the effort. Now, if you do as many of those as you can every day, you'll get stronger in no time, Roshi said. Now to work on your reflexes. How are we going to do that? Kakarot asked, intrigued. Well, Roshi responded, since you seem to like sparring so much, I figured we'd tune your reflexes by having you spar against someone stronger than you. All right, let's do this, Kakarot said, taking a fighting stance. Wait, Roshi said. Krillin, he called out. Yes, master, the monk said, running over from where he'd been quietly meditating. Since he'd seen Kakarot so easily use energy waves, he was determined to duplicate the move as well. Come over here, Roshi instructed. You two are going to both spar against the old master. True Saiyans fight alone, Kakarot said, his voice full of determination. Then true Saiyans are foolish, Roshi said sternly. Having allies and working as a team against a stronger opponent is an important skill if you ever want to be a great warrior. Sometimes your opponent may be much stronger than you. At times like that, you must work together to beat your opponent. All right, let's get started then, Kakarot said, getting into a fighting stance. Right, Krillin agreed, also assuming his stance. The two boys charged at the old master, throwing punches aimed at his head. Roshi easily ducked Kakarot's punch and sidestepped Krillin's. The boys kept coming, but Roshi continued to block their uncoordinated attacks without too much trouble. Kakarot kept throwing kicks and punches at the old master, but Roshi still managed to stay ahead of the blows, even with Krillin attacking him at the same time. Suddenly, what Roshi had said sank in. Kakarot realized that if he wanted to win this spar, he'd have to work with Krillin and somehow coordinate his attacks with the monk. Out of the corner of his eye, Kakarot saw Krillin throw a left hook at Roshi. Seizing the opportunity, Kakarot shot his foot out, catching the master in the head with a kick as Roshi dodged Krillin's punch. Roshi went flying back from the blow but quickly recovered. Very good, the master said, smiling. You're starting to get it now, but now I'm going to quit going easy on you. With that, Roshi charged at his two pupils. First, he threw a punch at Kakarot that the boy managed to block. At the same time, Krillin came in with a kick aimed at the old man's stomach, but Roshi blocked it just in time, returning a punch to Krillin's gut for his trouble. Kakarot came in behind the old man with a left hook aimed at Roshi's head, thinking the old man was distracted, but received an elbow to the face for his trouble. Kakarot got up, wiping blood from his face, and grinned. Now, this was the kind of fight he'd been waiting for. He charged back into the fray, throwing kicks and punches wildly at Roshi while Krillin did the same. Roshi managed to stay ahead of most of the blows but couldn't block or dodge them all. To the old master's credit, he dealt out more blows than he received. Kakarot's endurance was nearing its limits as he continued to throw kicks and punches at the old master. Sensing this, Roshi went on the offensive, driving a fist into Kakarot's stomach, doubling him over. Without wasting a second, Roshi shot his knee up, catching Kakarot in the chin and sending him flying into the air. Roshi then dodged a kick from Krillin and jumped up, catching Kakarot with an axe handle and sending him crashing into the ground hard. Seconds later, he turned his attention to Krillin, sending a kick at the boy's head and launching him into a rock formation. The old man shot forward to follow the monk, but was interrupted by a small ki blast hitting the back of his head. He turned to see Kakarot standing in a small crater, one hand covering his ribs and the other outstretched from firing the blast. The boy's white tank top was ripped in several places, and his black pants had holes in both knees. The young Sen was also covered in scratches and bruises. "I'm not finished yet," Kakarot declared, charging at the old man and throwing a flurry of kicks and punches. Unfortunately for him, Roshi dodged them all effortlessly and retaliated with several powerful blows of his own. Minutes later, Roshi landed another devastating punch to Kakarot's face, followed by a sweeping kick to his ribs, sending the boy flying to the ground once again. Kakarot struggled to his feet, determination burning in his eyes. He cupped his hands to his side and began chanting, "Ka, mi, ha, mi." He poured as much energy as he could into the wave aimed at Roshi. "Ha!" he shouted, unleashing the powerful beam. "Kamehameha," Roshi chanted calmly, gathering his own energy and firing it back at Kakarot's beam. The old master's attack easily overpowered the boys, sending both beams back at Kakarot with tremendous force. The explosion that followed was immense. When the smoke cleared, Kakarot still stood, his clothes even more tattered than before. His body was now almost completely covered with cuts, bruises, and burns. The young Saiyan took a step forward but quickly collapsed, unconscious from the attack. Roshi grinned, his eyes twinkling with satisfaction. "I've still got it," he said to himself, pleased at having beaten both his students. "Though if Kakarot keeps this up, I'll have to start training myself again," he mused. The day of the tournament finally arrived. Roshi stood outside Kame House with his two students. "Now you can take off your turtle shells," Roshi said. "You won't need them at the tournament." "Good," Krillin said, relieved. "I thought we'd look silly." Kakarot simply dropped his shell to the ground as if he'd never noticed the weight in the first place. "I've got something for you," Launch said, coming out of the house with a bright smile. "2 new suits to wear to the tournament." "No offense," Kakarot said, "but I think it'd be better if I just wore this to fight in." "Oh yeah, silly me," Launch replied with a smile, slightly embarrassed. "The suits are just to wear on the way," Roshi explained, handing the suits to Kakarot. "I'm not wearing that thing," Kakarot said, sounding irritated. "Well, all right then," Roshi said, a bit taken aback. "I was hoping to give you these at the tournament, but I suppose you can wear them now." The old man turned and handed his students 2 boxes. Krillin eagerly opened his first, revealing an orange martial arts gi with a blue undershirt and the turtle symbol on it. "This is awesome," Krillin said, excited about the new fighting uniform. Kakarot opened his box to find a green gi with a black undershirt. His also had the turtle symbol on the back. "The colors are to match your armor," Roshi said. "The symbol is to show that you're my student." Kakarot didn't quite know what to say. He loved it. The Sen boy smiled, something he rarely did. "Thanks," he said, taking the uniform inside to change. An airplane and taxi ride later, the warriors arrived at the World Martial Arts Tournament. "We need to sign up for the tournament," Roshi told the attendant. "How many are in your party?" the attendant asked. "There are 3 of us fighting," Roshi responded. "Who are the people fighting?" the attendant inquired. "Myself and the 2 boys," Roshi replied confidently. "Are you kidding?" the man asked, incredulous. "An old man and 2 children?" "No, I'm not kidding," Roshi yelled at the man. "We're all going to fight." Originally, Roshi had planned to fight under the alias Jackie Chun but had decided against it. He knew that Kakarot would have no problem going all out against him even if he knew who he was. "Kakarot," a voice yelled from across the way, interrupting Roshi's thoughts. "Hey, I knew you'd come," an excited Yamcha said, approaching the group. "Ready for that rematch?" "Sure," Kakarot said with a grin. "It's your funeral." "We'll see about that," Yamcha said confidently. "I've been training extra hard just to beat you." "Let's see how strong you are then," Kakarot said, fixing his scouter to his eye. Hitting the button on the side, he got a reading. 90, not bad, he said. "That certainly is an improvement from last we met," a voice said from behind them. "But my money is still on Kakarot beating the tar out of you." "Hey Bulma," Kakarot said, turning to the girl who had just joined their conversation. "I see you made it." "Yeah, I wouldn't miss this for the world," she responded nervously. The night passed quickly with old friends catching up, and before they knew it, The next morning had arrived, and it was time for the 21st World Martial Arts Tournament to begin. An old man with a long gray mustache stood in front of the group of assembled fighters. "Now listen up," the man said, "because I don't want to have to repeat myself. We'll be playing single elimination in the qualifying rounds. You'll be divided into 4 groups, and the top 2 from those groups will go on to the finals. You lose if you are knocked out, thrown from the ring, or kill your opponent." After a few minutes and a few more rules being explained, the contestants drew numbers. "What number did you get?" Krillin asked Kakarot. "I got 46, he said, holding up his number. 70, Kakarot said, showing his number to Krillin. "What?" Krillin exclaimed. "That puts us both in Tier 3. Kakarot chuckled as he watched the fear on Krillin's face at the prospect of fighting him. "Don't worry," he said. "We're on opposite sides of the tier, but you'll have to fight me eventually if you hope to win. I'll be in the finals. And I'll be in there with you," Yamcha said, joining the 2 warriors. "I'm in Tier 2, by the way." "Will the first 2 fighters come up?" the attendant announced. "I need numbers 69 and 70. Kakarot walked up to the ring and stared down his opponent. He didn't have his scouter on for the tournament, but he wasn't worried. While the man towered over him in height and stature, Kakarot was sure he could easily beat him. "Hey, it's Kakarot," Bulma said from the window where she was watching with the reluctant help of Oolong. "Ready? Fight!" the announcer declared. "I'll smash you," Kakarot's opponent boasted. "Not likely," Kakarot replied as he jumped over the man's fist and sent a roundhouse kick to the giant's face. The man flew out of the ring, through the wall, and out of the stadium, landing unconscious. "We have a winner, folks," the attendant announced. "Ladies and gentlemen, are you ready?" the announcer said to the crowd gathered to watch the fights. "It's time for the 21st Annual World Martial Arts Tournament. The matches will be as follows: Bacterium vs. Krillin, Roshi vs. Yamcha, Lanfan vs. Nam, Kakarot vs. Giran. Now, can I have our first 2 contestants up to the ring?" Krillin and Bacterium each walked into the ring, with everyone holding their noses as the stench from Bacterium hit. "Finish him quickly," Kakarot advised. "He's not that strong." "Right," Krillin said, holding his nose with one hand. "Ready? Fight!" the announcer shouted. Bacterium stalked toward Krillin, causing the boy to back up due to the odor. "How am I supposed to hit this guy if I can't even get close to him?" Krillin thought as he backed away from Bacterium. Then the thought occurred to him. Pointing his hand toward Bacterium, he gathered his energy and shot a ball of ki at the smelly fighter. The ki ball exploded as it hit, carrying Bacterium from the ring and ending the fight quickly. "Man, Krillin's good," Yamcha said as he watched the fight. "You're easily impressed," Kakarot retorted. "Just wait until we hit the finals," Yamcha said. "We'll see how impressed you are then." "Next up, we have Yamcha and Roshi," the announcer said, interrupting their argument. "We'll see if you make it through this round," Kakarot said as Yamcha went up to the stage. Yamcha took a fighting stance as he stood across the ring from Master Roshi. While he'd breezed through the preliminary rounds of the tournament, he knew now he faced a real opponent. "Ready? Fight!" the announcer yelled, signaling the beginning of the match. Yamcha charged at the old martial artist and threw a punch at Roshi's face. Roshi leaned his head to the side and watched as the punch missed by bare inches. Yamcha followed up with a kick to the side, but Roshi quickly raised an arm to block the move. Yamcha flipped back to his side of the ring to regroup. "Man, this guy's tough," he thought. "Everything I've thrown at him he's dodged as if it were a joke. It's like he's not even trying. I don't remember him being this strong last time we met. He must have done some training too." "Are you going to just stand there, or are you going to fight?" Roshi said, taking his own stance. That's it for this episode, guys. If you've watched to the end, then that may be an indication that you enjoy the episode, so please drop a like so the video could reach more people. See you in the next episode. Take care.